Join screen.
All right. Thanks again for everybody for joining us today. And hold on one second. We're having some technical difficulties here.
Okay.
Now we're on air.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody should share a screen. Again, you know, as you think of questions, please feel free to type them over in your question box, and we'll review them all at the end of the session, and we'll try to provide you answers to those. If we can't, we'll follow up with you following the presentation. Okay, so today we're talking about the proposed rule that was released on Friday, May 23rd. You know, this rule was released 6 weeks before a testation period for hospitals, and keep in mind that this is not a final rule, it is a proposed rule. With the rule comes a 60-day comment period, and we suggest that you guys all respond to CMS to let them know your thoughts. You know, provide details of your experience. We do suggest that you remain vendor neutral and not call out your vendor by name, but just share your experience, share the problems that you're having. Following the close of the 60-day comment period, CMS has 30 days to respond to the comments and finalize that rule. So if they follow the normal timeline, it's looking like that the final change will not be released until the end of August of this year. Now, there is an emergency rulemaking process that CMS has, which can shorten the 30-day response period, but we're getting some feedback that CMS is probably not going to utilize that special rulemaking change, and so we are looking at end of August before this rule becomes finalized. Now, if you do want to comment on the rule, you can submit your comments right to their website at www.regulations.gov. You can submit them by standard snail mail, but regardless, your comments have to be received by the end of business on July 23rd. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 comments that you'd like to make and don't want to go through that, if you send us your comments, we'll consolidate those and send them on. Now, we are commenting directly to CMS, but we are also planning to consolidate any comments that we receive and submit those as well. So as you can imagine, there have been some national organizations that have taken a stance or released comments on this proposed rule change, and we're really hoping that CMS will listen to those. The most vocal has been AMA. You know, their stance is that the meaningful use program is really too rigid, the timeline's too harsh, and you know, not a big fan of the penalties. So they're suggesting that rather than the all or nothing approach of meaningful use, where you know you have to meet every measure, you have to meet a specified number of core measures, they're suggesting that if an organization can meet 75% of all the measures, then consider that a passing rate. And also they suggest that if an organization or a practitioner meets at least 50% of the objectives, that they not receive any financial penalty. So at 50%, they wouldn't be able to tap into the incentives, but at least they can avoid the 1, 2, and you know the compounding penalties. So AMA is also recommending that they consolidate and simplify the core and menu measures, and that those be streamlined a little bit. They're really focusing on removing the mandated components that fall outside of the physician or if a patient seen in the ED, they're probably not going to get much feedback through the portal or a secure message through the portal. And generally, you're suggested if you're in the ED that you follow up with your primary care provider. So other organizations as well are commenting. The American Hospital Association, they like the flexibility, but they're still really concerned that these changes are not going to help hospitals meet meaningful use. CHIME they don't believe that this proposed rule will actually give much relief to hospitals, since the finalized rule won't be released until the reporting period has started. HIMSS also has released their comments, and they would really like to see CMS clarify what their intended outcome is for stakeholders, and they really want to understand what CMS's real goal is with these proposed rule changes. All right, now let's actually dive into the proposed rule changes, and I apologize in advance for the busyness of the next slide, but we felt it was really important to include some of the text from the rule so we could build off that information. Now, what stage should you report? Well, I'm just going to read this text to you real quick. The addition of certified EHR technology, which is available to a provider, dictates the stage and version of meaningful use objectives and measures to which the provider will be able to attest. Now, what we generally see is most of the EHRs in the EP or ambulatory space are wholly or mostly whole certified, meaning that they're not highly modular, that generally your primary EHR vendor provides everything you need to meet meaningful use. Whereas in the hospital, most of those systems that we see anyway are modularly certified. They involve multiple vendors that you have to kind of build together to get the complete EHR that's required by meaningful use. And this is where we see this rule being very important. So in short, whatever technology you have available at the beginning of your reporting period will drive how you attest in 2014. So if all the modules are installed, they're 2014 certified, then you've got to attest to the 2014 standards. Okay, and this, again, another very busy slide, but we felt it was important to put this text up. So again, just to read the text real quick. A provider's ability to fully implement all of the functionality of 2014 edition CERT may be limited by the availability and timing of product installation, deployment of new processes and workflows, and employee training. Therefore, providers who are scheduled to begin Stage 2 for the 2014 EHR reporting period but are unable to fully implement all of the functions required for Stage 2 measures due to delays in 2014 CERT availability would have the option of using 2014 CERT to attest to the 2014 Stage 1 measures for the 2014 period. A lot of text. What does it really mean? Well, first we want you to focus on the text in their installation, deployment, and training portions, because we feel that is extremely critical. So providers and organizations that can attest to Stage 2, they have all the 2014 required components in place, should attest to Stage 2. But if you're having problems, you do have the option to fall back and gain another year attesting to the Stage 1 requirements. So recently we've turned some of our focus to audits because they're becoming more common, and it's something that we help sites we help sites out with if they've received an audit from CMS. So again, to read the text, providers who choose this reporting option must attest that they are unable to fully implement the 2014 edition CERT, Certified EHR Technology, because of issues related to 2014 edition CERT availability delays when they attest to the meaningful use objectives and measures. So during your attestation process, you must adhere to this requirement. So step back, think about a statement, about this statement as a proof issue. So A, do you have 2014 technology in place? B, you have the 2014 technology in place, but there's some other issue preventing you from meeting Stage 2. Maybe it's training, maybe it's the associated build, or something of that nature. And if you have all that in place, attest to Stage 2 at the 2014 standards. If not, put your story together and have that ready in case you are selected for an audit. So what does this proposed rule really do for you? Well, it creates a look-back categories for both Stage 1 and Stage 2 attestation for 2014, including the use of 2013 measures. You know, it does change the requirement that you've got to use 2014 certified technology for most of the attestations. One thing it does do is it allows for a mix of 2011 certified and 2014 certified technology to either meet the 2013 standard or the 2014 standard. So that's where your flexibility comes in. Another thing that this proposal does do is officially extend Stage 2 for an additional year out, through 2016. So Stage 3 would not begin before the 2017 reporting period. Now, this gives CMS more time to review comments and get feedback to set those Stage 3 requirements. And, of course, it gives vendors more time to prepare their products, get it implemented. But it gives you guys more time to implement and maybe a chance to catch your breath before you have to start working on your Stage 3 projects. Now, what does this rule not do for you? Well, the first thing it does not do is it does not change the reporting periods for 2014. Regardless of the problems that you're having, you must attest to something, either Stage 1 or Stage 2. It does not eliminate penalties that start this year. Again, the rule change provides some relief, doesn't change incentives or penalties. So if you don't attest, you will lose your incentives and you will be penalized. Just as a reminder, all hospitals start the reporting period on July 1st and EPs by October 1st, with one exception to that. EPs who have not attested to meaningful use before must attest by October 1st to avoid the penalty. So that's the one caveat with the timelines there. All right, now there is a slight change also to those participating under the Medicaid program. If you are attesting, if you're a Medicaid AIU, you must have a contract in place with an EHR vendor for 2014 certified technology. Don't necessarily need to have it in place, but you have to have a contract in hand. Now, at this time, Medicaid is still requiring 2014 certified technology for those who are actually going through a Stage 1 or Stage 2 attestation, but historically, Ohio Medicaid follows the lead of CMS. So we're pretty confident that once the final rule is released by CMS, that Ohio Medicaid will follow suit. There's always a chance that they won't, but historically, that's what they've always done. All right, so each meaningful use stage now has 3 ways of reporting or testing driven by the vendor certification or other issues. So let's take a quick look. If you're a Stage 1, 2014, you, by this chart, if you have 2011 certified technology in place, then you attest to Stage 1 meaningful use, again, for this year, following the 2013 standards. If you've got a combination of 2011 certified and 2014 certified technology in place, you can attest to the 2013 standard, the menus measures or CQMs, or you can attest to the 2014 Stage 1 measures and CQMs. And you should attest to the highest level that your technology will allow. Now, if you've got all 2014 certified technology in place, you're Stage 1, then you have to follow the 2014 Stage 1 measures and CQMs. Now, for Stage 2, again, a little more complex. If you do not have your 2014 certified system in place, you're still 2011 certified, then you get another year Stage 1. Now, it gets a little more complicated if you've got a mix of 2011 and 2014 certified technology. You can, if you can't report on all of the Stage 2 requirements, then you can fall back to the 2013 Stage 1 measures and CQMs. You could do the 2014 Stage 1 measures and CQMs, or if you can produce the reports to support Stage 2 measures and CQMs, then that's really what you should attest to. And then now if you have 2014 certified technology in place, your Stage 2, you could still attest to the 2014 Stage 1 measures. And of course, you always have the option of Stage 2 measures and CQMs. But again, you should really attest to the highest level that your technology and reports will allow. All right, so if you're scheduled to begin, you're scheduled to report to Stage 1 in 2014. Again, you can attest if you got 2011 certified system, then you need to attest to the 2013 Stage 1 measures. If you have a mix, then you've got more choices with 2013 Stage 1 or 2014 Stage 1, and this is generally where, if you have a modular system that hasn't received, some component hasn't received its 2014 certification, then you fall into this bullet. Basically, you're falling back to the 2013 standards. Again, just to reiterate, if you fully implemented your product that is 2014 certified, then you really need to meet those 2014 standards. Okay, and as a reminder, your CQMs are a major component of your attestation process. So if you're going to pursue the 2013 standards, then the 2013 standards for your CQMs are 15 required CQMs for eligible hospitals, 3 required, and then you get to select 3 if you're an EP under the EP system. If you're going for the 2014 measures, then hospitals have the 14 CQMs across 3 domains. EPs, 16 across the 16 CQMs across 3 domains. EPs have the 9 CQMs across the 3 domains. And remember, your domains are the different categories of designated by CMS. All right, so if you're Stage 2, you can attest to Stage 1 if all you have in place is 2011 certified EHR. If you're a modular system and you fall somewhere in between, then you can roll back to Stage 1, either at the 2013 standard, the 2014 standard, or if you can get the reports out of your system to go to Stage 2, then definitely attest to Stage 2. And again, if you're wholly 2014 certified, everything's in place, you can still roll back to the Stage 1 measures if you're having other problems with training or workflows or the build. But if you can do Stage 2, everything's in place, then you must attest to Stage 2. And again, as a reminder, Stage 2 has a clinical quality measure requirements associated with it as well. So if you're using the 2013 measures, then you use the 2013 CQMs. Again, for physicians or eligible providers, it's the 3 required and the 3 selected. For the hospitals, it's 15 CQMs. If you're rolling to the 2014 standard, then eligible hospitals have the 16 CQMs across 3 domains. Physicians, providers report on the 9 CQMs across 3 domains. Keep in mind that you've got to also have 5 clinical decision support rules linked to 4 of the CQMs. Again, your CQMs are across 3 domains. So what's the bottom line? Well, remember, this is not a final rule. This is a proposed rule. We don't know what that final rule is going to look like. Don't assume that the reporting or testation timelines are going to change, even though we get a lot of feedback from sites that they just need more time. But this is why we feel your comments are important, and that you comment to CMS, or at a minimum, send us your comments so we can kind of combine those and send them up the chain. You must attest to the highest level that your technology will support. Continue to work, continue your meaningful use initiatives that you have in place right now. Just keep working. But have Plan A and have Plan B and have strategies around your options. If you're having problems with implementing a module, struggling with a patient portal or training, then start pulling together all of your information into a packet that clearly supports your decision to attest at a lower level. Include a timeline, information from your vendor or vendors. Now, we don't believe that the level of detail in the proposed rule will make the final rule, but again, this is just our opinion. Now, On the other hand, don't make assumptions that the proposed rule will change. It won't be any less than what was proposed. It could include more. We just don't know. Again, keep working towards your meaningful use goals. Have Plan A, Plan B ready. Many are viewing this rule change or proposed rule change as adding complexity to an already complex program, but it does provide some relief and does give a bit of flexibility to the organizations that are struggling. So I apologize if I got through all of the slides quickly, but we always feel that the question-answer period is important. I'm going to pull Kathy Costello into the conversation so we can start answering your questions. Again, there's a comment box over that we found the most that is the easiest to use rather than unmuting everyone. So what we're trying to do here is
pull it over. Yeah, that's what you did yesterday.
All right, so we're going to expand our question box here. Can we print the PowerPoint? Yes, we can send the PowerPoint to everybody who is on the conference call today. We've got that list, and Dottie will send that out to everyone.
Can you send the slides?
Yep, we'll send them out. Any other questions? Because right now we've got 3 questions that are all about the PowerPoints, and we'll make them. Okay, we were looking at filing a hardship exception form due to availability, which is due July 1st. If we complete the hardship exception, will this exclude us from any incentive payments for this year? Now, the hardship exception will not protect your incentives, but it will prevent you from receiving the penalties. So it's kind of writing off the money that you would have received, but that 1%, 2%, 3% penalty over the coming years, it'll prevent you from realizing those penalties.
Hey, was that Deb? No. Okay, as far as the hardship, the thing about this proposed rule, and I guess that's the thing that kind of struck us in the face, because we had been talking to people at ONC and CMS about the fact of, and this is the point that AMA makes too, that if for whatever reason, due to these vendor-driven issues or workflow issues, you aren't able to attest, there's nothing in the rule that is going to protect you with your incentives this year. So if you are a hospital, you would just lose your 2014 Medicare incentives. You would not lose Medicaid, but you wouldn't be able to draw it down until the next time you test for Medicare. On the physician or EP side, if you're a Medicare EP, you just totally lose this year's incentives. With Medicaid, you wouldn't lose it as an EP, but you would push off for another year being able to claim it. And so that's one of the things about the rule that I thought was really evident, that they had made a policy decision not to protect the incentives if you don't file, and I think that is an effort to not force everyone, but to keep everyone moving on meaningful use. They would rather have people attest to a lower stage of meaningful use than not attest at all. And so that's why you're seeing that. But so there is no protection to the incentives. And the other point to make that we have not seen yet is that there is absolutely no change in the reporting timeline. We'd like to see them extend the 2014 reporting by another quarter, but that is not, and I know that AMA was suggesting kind of a similar approach too, that there be an increased reporting requirement. But right now, under this proposed rule, the last date that a hospital can start their attestation period is July 1st, and the last date that an EP can start their attestation period for 2014 is October 1st. So you need to continue to move down exactly the same strategy timelines as far as your implementation schedule, and just create a plan B on what level of attestation you're going to do if you have problems getting everything implemented.
Yep, and we are also sharing with the sites that we're talking to that if there's any question that you won't be able to meet your reporting period, that you go ahead and get your paperwork together for your hardship exception now, because it's much better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So, all right, let's go on to the next question. Do you have any idea when they would release the rule changes?
Rule changes are definitely, from what I heard from CMS this morning, although we thought they might, and I know that the AHA and some of the hospital-based groups are looking to have them finish their policy deliberations earlier than July 1st. From what we heard from CMS this morning, at least right now, they are talking about completing this rulemaking process as it currently is set up, which means 60 days of comment, 30 days for rewrite. So the earliest that I would see is mid to late August as the final rule. And so that obviously disadvantages especially the hospitals. And that's one thing right now. We're going to be on a call with CMS this afternoon. I don't know if they're going to have a suggestion about what you all do as far as if you get to July 1st, you're not fully implemented, if they just want you to go ahead and run whatever you have available as far as reports. But we will keep you posted on that. Okay, what else?
All right. Please send info about the hardship exception. We'll include that along with the slides that we'll send out to all the attendees.
Yeah, and the one thing about the hardship that's kind of crazy right now, we'll send you out the forms that are available. Technically, right now, the hospitals are in their hardship exemption filing period for 2014 incentives. Physicians and EPs, if you've already tested once, supposedly your hardship exception filing won't open until July 1st. Be that as it may, we're sending you the hardship forms that are there right now, and I would suggest that if you have any questions about sending it in, to go ahead and err on the side of sending it in and let them tell you that you need to resubmit it after their next deadline.
Okay, next question. Are you hearing anything about CMS delaying the 1% hit in 2016 and the 2% in 2017 on reverse reimbursements? No, they are not going to delay. As we know right now, they are not going to delay the penalties. Again, that's why we're telling folks get those hardship exception forms ready just in case you're having issues. Okay, if a Medicare Year 1 provider, first-time attester, doesn't meet meaningful use in 2014, they will incur a 1% penalty. If they meet meaningful use in 2015, do they still incur the 1% or are they reset to 0?
They're reset to 0, Patrick. Every year is looked at differently. So you have cumulative penalties over time. If you have a provider or a hospital that doesn't begin in 2014, absent the CAH situation, then in 2015 they get a 1% penalty. In 2016 they get a 1%. In 2017 they get a 1%. So the cumulative effect is 3%, but it's 1% per year. If at any point during that timeline you do a test, say they attest in 2015, then it negates, as you commented, it resets to 0. So in 2016 you would not see a 1% decrease, but then every year that you miss a filing, if it's beyond your first year, 2 years later you'll see the penalty. So if you've filed already, it's not your first time in testing this year and you miss your filing in 2014, your penalty will be in 2016. Same thing's true with 2015, 2017.
All right, next question. Are any of Ohio's preferred EHR vendors for the RECs making additional resources available to help their clients with these proposed changes? We really can't speak to what the EHR vendors are doing. I know many of the vendors are already stretched razor thin. We haven't seen any comments back from EHR vendors regarding this proposed rule. Now, from a rec standpoint, you know, we are here to help you guys. If you have questions, you need some guidance, contact Kathy or myself, or your regional rec if you still have an active regional rec, and we will help you. That's what we're here for. If you are a pediatrician seeing almost no Medicare and almost no Medicaid, what's the point of Meaningful Use?
Thank you, Marsha. You know, that I laugh about that, but honest to gosh, on the rec side, we've worked so many years with primary care and pediatricians. I think that is they struggle with it, and certainly they were. I'm not saying as group late adopters, because a lot of pediatricians adopted in the first year or two. But what we saw is they weren't driven by the same timelines as everyone else because they really did not have the ability to draw down meaningful use incentives. But what we see happening now, and I have to tell you honestly, that we've seen a whole lot more pediatricians come in over the past year, even if they were not eligible for incentives. And the reason why is the whole medical healthcare world is going electronic. So what we're seeing is that whole referral network is moving towards electronic, and that's obviously one of the goals of 2014 Meaningful Use. So, but whether or not you're part of Meaningful Use, you still need to be part of that network. What we're seeing is a lot of the hospitals, as a result of their move to Meaningful Use, are contacting their providers and telling them that they are going to be doing all their transfer of information electronically, whether it's their forms, whether it's their continuity of care documents, whether it's their email system. They are moving to electronic. We've done dozens of education sessions for hospital medical staff, and this pretty much, I would say the vast majority of the hospitals are sending that message. Some of them are doing a dual integration where they run side by side with an electronic information request system or transfer system with their fax, old fax system, but most of them are going to phase that out over the next several months. So it's not an incentive-driven question. It's really a patient care question and a realization that we're into an electronic age.
All right, next question. If an eligible provider did not meet stage 1 in 2013 under the Medicare program, can we still submit and attest for 2014 if they meet stage 1 currently?
Absolutely, and I assume we're asking on the physician side. Yeah, EP. What I'd say is you definitely can. Just note, though, that 2014, the change in measures for stage 1 requires you to have a patient portal up and running, functioning totally in order to test in 2014. And the companion piece of the change in 2014 for stage 1 is you do have the increased quality measures reporting. So you're going to have to report on 9 measures of your selection rather than 6. So those are your big changes in 2014 for EP first time. It's patient portal and quality measure reporting. But man, if you're meeting that right now, you go ahead and file right now and you'll still be able to draw down incentives.
All right, next question. We attested to stage 1 for the last quarter of 2013. As an eligible provider, do I need to attest for another 3-month period this year? Does the reporting period have to be before 9/30/14, and how long do I have to do the attestation?
Okay, 2014, we call that our anomaly year or skip year, in the sense that when Meaningful Use was originally set up, it was supposed to be that every year after your first year of attestation would require a full year of documentation of Meaningful Use, so 365 days. What happened because of the vendor issues in requiring everyone in the country to go with 2014 certified systems, they realized that it was such a tight turnaround that vendors were not going to have their modules and their systems certified and into the marketplace in time for hospitals and physicians to attest to a full year in 2014. And that decision was absolutely on the mark because, as you can hear from all this discussion, many, many, many people are still getting their systems implemented. So what they've done is in 2014, no matter where you are on the reporting timeline, you could be your first year, you could be your 5th year, you are going to be attesting only for a 3-month or 90-day period. And the difference is if you're a Medicaid provider, you can pick any 90 days, just as you did the first time you attested, and attest for that in 2014. If you're Medicare and you've attested once, you have to run your attestation period by quarter. So from this point forward in the year, you'd be starting either July 1st or October 1st if you are a Medicare EP attesting for the 2nd or 3rd or 4th time.
Okay, next question is a bit of a long one. We are currently on a 2014 certified system, and according to the CMS, Meaningful Use Schedule should be attesting for Stage 2. However, there is not a lab results interface with our hospital who we receive lab results from, and the date of this interface is still undecided. It could be Q3 or Q4 of 2014. So based upon what we discussed and assuming it finalizes, we could attest for Stage 1 from July to September or October through December. Is this correct? Yes, that is correct. What if the lab results interface is completed during our attestation period to stage? Regardless, everything has to be in place at the beginning of your reporting period. So if you are within what you've decided to be your reporting period, the lab interface isn't there, you roll to Stage 1, correct?
Yes, I would say that is correct. We are hoping for more guidance on this question of if somebody else doesn't have their interfaces ready in the hospital physician world, you know that would be included in the rollback of stages.
Okay, please clarify that a practice could submit an exception request, and if the proposed rule is approved, they could then still attest this year and get their incentives. And that is correct. Think of the hardship exception as your safety net. You know, if you're thinking you're going to have any problems meeting your timetable, get that hardship exception in now. If you do a test, they just throw it away.
Yeah, and all it does is protect you from being penalized. And please note, if it's your first year, you need to have that filed by July 1st. And we will send you the forms when we close this out and we send you the PowerPoint.
Okay, if first-time attestation to Stage 1 for an eligible provider, doesn't the reporting period need to begin by July 1st in order to not receive the penalty?
Yes.
That is correct. All right, we are in the process of looking at affiliating with a larger health system and utilizing their HIS, their Hospital Information System. We did not pursue an upgrade to our HIS because of this. Can we file for a hardship with this criteria? Do we have any other options?
Yes, I would say that would fall. It sounds like you're in the process of deciding that. You know, there is a specific check area on the hardship exceptions for if you don't have control of your system. Basically, you know, that you're part of a network or something. What I would do is check that, and there is a space under that to give an explanation of the situation, and I would do that. I would also include that in the body of the email that you use to submit this, and just say that you're in the process of changing from your system to hospital support, and therefore you know you're between systems, and that should definitely protect you from penalties. Now, it's not going to help you with your incentives. I take that back. If you can, if the rule is finalized and you're able to use your 2011 certified version for attestation, I would go ahead and do that.
Okay. Next question. If we think we are ready and want to attest to the third quarter, can we still attest for the July-September quarter? How will this affect our submission?
Joyce, I'm going to answer. You don't say whether you're year 1 or year 2, but I'm going to, let's say if you're year 1, first time you're testing, absolutely should be doing July through September. If you're year 2 or Stage 2, You certainly can attest July through September. There's nothing to prevent you from doing that. And I guess, if you can get it out of your way and you have your patient portal up and running and you're doing your CQMs, absolutely. No problem with doing it in July through September.
Okay, this must be a follow-up to an earlier question, but it says, we attest as pediatricians, but they say we have no incentives coming.
Okay, on the pediatric side, you're attesting only under Medicaid, and you do have the ability to drop to 20% Medicaid volume and draw down incentives if your pediatrician is board certified as a pediatrician. Otherwise, you have to meet 30% Medicaid, in which case, if you're not showing either 20% or 30% Medicaid, you're correct. Your pediatrician will not be eligible for incentives since they're not going to draw down under Medicare. But as we discussed earlier, there still are other reasons where you may want to go electronic.
Okay, next question. You may have already commented on this. Has this been recorded? Yes, it has, and we will make the recording available. We're recording each of the sessions because the questions definitely vary, and also every day we are updating the PowerPoint or updating the information that we share within the PowerPoint based on feedback that we get back from CMS and other organizations.
Yeah, and maybe what we can do to help everyone is when we get done, because we have 4 of these scheduled, is we'll work with Dottie to take the questions that have been asked and to put them in like a hard copy. They can go to the newsletter, Q&A for everybody. That way we'll combine all the FAQs from all the sessions.
Okay, next question. Just want to make sure I understand the incentive for Stage 2. If they extend Stage 2, making it a 3-year period, and we do not meet the requirements this year, can we attest next year and get that incentive money missed?
The answer is, let me split that into 2 parts. They have added, and if nothing else in the rule stays the same, that there is going to be a 3rd year at Stage 2, and that's going to be 2016. If your question is, if you skip your incentives this year, if you don't attest at all, then you're going to lose that incentive, but you continue down the meaningful use path. So, Erin, let me address this if it's a hospital and then if it's an EP, because I'm not sure which side you're on. In the hospital world, if you do not attest at all, you can take the hardship exception to protect your penalties, but you will lose your Medicare incentive dollars. And you will not be able to attest to Medicaid incentives this year because hospitals are required to do their Medicare filing first, unless they're children's hospitals. If you are an EP, same thing's true. If you're Medicare, you are going to lose that Medicare incentive. You can protect yourself from penalty, but you cannot protect your incentives. Where this puts you, no matter if you're a hospital or physician, on your reporting timeline is if you miss filing, if you miss the testing this year, you pick up with, you act as if you've attested when you're counting your years. So let's say this should have been your Stage 2 year 1. Next year you'd still be doing Stage 2. And if they extend Stage 2 for another year, you'd be doing 2015 and 2016 at Stage 2. So basically, what you do this year, if you're at Stage 2, does not affect the fact that the next 2 years you'd be doing Stage 2. If you should have been at Stage 1 this year and you do not attest, then under the current proposal, and they do not spell this out in the reg, but under the current understanding of meaningful use, is you would then move to Stage 2 in 2015. And again, full year reporting in 2015. You do not drop back to 90 days.
All right, next question. The main issue we are facing is the patient portal and sending patient records through a HISP. This is where we see the biggest problem out and about with folks trying to meet the 2014 standards, whether at Stage 1 or Stage 2, is with that patient portal.
Oh man, we have seen so many technical issues around Portal, and I'm sure I'm talking to the choir here because all of you, I'm sure, are living through this, and that is that it's much easier said than done to say, well, let's just sign people up for an email address and then we can start sending stuff. And I think, honestly, that was in CMS's mind. It's like, oh, you know, you can be Yahoo or Gmail and we'll just start sending you stuff. That is not how this whole portal integration in email, direct email, is occurring. Because one thing that we discovered after spending a lot of time working with hospitals and physicians on this is that in order to have your portal activated by your vendor, they have to show that there's a direct connection, because it's a view, download, and transmit. And the third part of that, the transmit, requires the ability to transmit through direct email. And I won't get into the technicalities of it, but let's just say that's been a showstopper for a lot of the vendors, because if they don't come through the HIE, they have to reach out and make sure all that integration is set up vendor to vendor. And so there's a lot of behind-the-scenes build going on here. So if you're asking me, and that's one thing we're commenting on about these rules, is I don't think it adequately at this point reflects the issues that for both practices and hospitals are having in getting their portals up and running. Because there is a question of the vendor sending it to you in time, you implementing the workflow, because there's a lot of workflow that needs to go on, especially in the hospital, where you've got to get your admissions people and your discharge people and everybody else on the same page about it. But the third part of this is to make sure that that HISP-to-HISP integration is done. So I'm hopeful that as they address things in the rule, that they will specifically call out the timeline that it's taking to get the portals up and running successfully.
Okay, next question. If a provider met stage 1 since 2011, and if the proposed rule is finalized, then we will still attest to stage 1 in 2014 if we are still on 2011 certified technology. Is this correct? Yes, that is correct. If you have 2011 certified technology in place, haven't been able to get your 2014 in place, you would still attest at the stage 1 level. Did I hear you say that if a hospital does not attest for July through September of 2014, that we will take a 1% hit in 2016 and will not be able to get the 1% back unless we do MU stage 2 in 2015 and recover the 1% reimbursement rate in 2017?
Greg, and not quite correct. The hospitals don't do, it's not by percentage, it's by market basket adjustment. And I'll send you that. I'll include that, everybody. Hospitals, your penalties are a little bit different than the physician side. Physicians are done as a straight percent. Hospitals are done as a market basket adjustment. And so, yes, it should bounce back up. The short answer is it should bounce back up, but you will just lose that market basket adjustment, which is, I think, like 1/4% or something, for whatever you do not attest to. So let me make that clear. Hospitals and physicians both get penalized at the same time frame, but how it's calculated is different, and I will include that for you.
All right. If we attested for stage 1 from April 1st to June 29th, do we have to do a full year on stage 1 prior to attesting to stage 2, or stage 1 year 2?
Let's see. You tested stage 1 in 2013. You will, in 2014, no matter what stage you are at, you are going to be doing a 90-day or quarterly attestation. You don't say, Deb, that's hospital, okay, Deb Hall. So the hospitals and the physicians who are Medicare are all on a quarterly reporting period in 2014. So for hospitals, your next time to start would be July 1st. That would be your last attestation period in 2014. For physicians, you can start July 1st or October 1st if you're Medicare. If you're Medicaid, you can start any day of the year.
All right, moving along. If you've attested successfully for 4 or 5 years consecutively for Medicare Meaningful Use, are you still required to continue to attest for stages 2 and 3 as to not receive a penalty? Asking with all the delays and wondering how much longer we'll need to continue to do this. And the short answer is yes. You must continue to attest even if you've run through all of your incentives, and you've got to do that to avoid the penalties.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, Brad, that's a real interesting point. There's a lot of discussion on the blogs about what's going on post-meaningful use, shall we say, and the answer is it may not be called meaningful use, but there are other programs that are coming in behind it, and they're based upon the quality reporting that you're setting in place as part of meaningful use. And that quality reporting is what's going to affect, you're going to get bonuses or incentives out of the quality reporting, and depending on the size of the practice or the hospital, you may receive a penalty, but that's not true across the board. That was all supposed to kind of start in 2016 based upon 2014 filings, but honestly, with everything going on in 2014, I don't think it will. I think they may push that off another year. But that is basically what's going to go on after meaningful use.
Yeah, so think of it this way, you've ate the carrot, now you have to avoid the stick.
Yeah,
so.
And I don't know what type of filing they're going to require once you're done with the meaningful use. You know, the formal, for hospitals, it's 4 years in Ohio. For physicians, it's 5 years. If you're Medicare, 6 years if you're Medicaid. Once you're done with that timeline, they haven't said what that filing is going to look like. We know that they are going to require quality incentive filing, but that's what stage 3 is all about, is talking about that quality stuff. So as soon as we see something, we'll let you know what it looks like.
Okay, next question. So just to build a better understanding, we will be reporting stage 2 this year. Will we be reporting stage 2 for 2 more years? The answer to that is yes. Stage 2 runs through the 2016 year.
But don't forget, after this year, you are going to be reporting a full year. So if you're having implementation issues in 2014 that allow you to drop into a preceding reporting period in the sense of stage 1 or stage 1, year 2 type of thing, you still will have to have that functionality in place at the very start of the 2015 reporting period. So for hospitals, no matter what you decide to do with your 2014 reporting period, you have to have in place your technology by October 1st, 2014. For physicians and EPs, you have to have that functionality in place by January 1st of 2015.
Okay, you may have already stated this, but will a recording be sent out after the call? All these questions and answers are very helpful. And yes, we're going to send out the link. And we do find that the question-answer period is probably one of the more valuable components. Meaningful Use is a very, very complex program. Unfortunately, this proposed rule didn't simplify that complexity. But we're here to help. Do not hesitate to contact Kathy or myself. Our job is to help you meet meaningful use.
And Dottie will have the FAQs ready, but as I said, we have a couple more of these to do, so we can't finalize that for you until probably another 10 days or so, but all that will be available to you both as hard copy and then on the website as the link to the video.
Yeah, and Kathy, can you talk a little to them about if they want any comments that there's
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Scott had on the slides that if you want to comment directly as an institution, and I'd encourage you to do this. I know a couple of the hospitals said to me, we don't want to because we're in the middle of an audit, because as you've all heard, Figliosi has really upped the number of audits recently, so we've got a number going on around Ohio. But if you're not comfortable in putting your name on comments that you feel strongly that there are things that need to be addressed, send them to me or Scott or Dottie, and our contact information's at the end of this slide deck, and we'll send it to you right after this. And we will incorporate it into our statewide comments. But if you want to comment directly, there is a slide there that shows you the link to go electronically to send your comment or to send it via regular mail. So with that, I think we better hop off. So everybody's done for the hour. But thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.